fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shireen.
And it's June.
Woo!
Woo! We're heading,
summer!
Oh, yeah. We're headed towards full summer. And when we were, deciding what we were like, it's summer. What do we want to talk about during the summer when it comes to reading? You know what I mean? Because there are like specific times of the year where you're like, I only want to talk about this. Like in October, I only want to talk about horror.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's kind of most of the year I'm like that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are different times of the year where I'm very drawn to like a particular genre.
It's true. Yep.
And so for the month of June, we decided that genre would be thrillers. So we're doing... You're going to do it every week.
Do that every week.
So throughout the month of June, we're going to be talking about like thrillers, suspense, adaptations, themes, tropes, because they've all got them. It doesn't matter what subgenre you're looking at. Everybody's got tropes. I think everybody thinks that it's just like fantasy or romance, but it's all of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like what genre we're talking about. So, and we kind of limited our scope to like thrillers and suspense this month. And so we're kicking it off with an adaptation that like if you were like a kid in the 90s and you just watched a lot of TV, you've probably seen it because it was just one, like it's like one of many in a really similar like theme at that time. There were a ton of adaptations. Like think about it. Think about the number of movies that were like this, like very like thriller, suspensey things.
But it feels like this one wasn't the most popular.
Probably not.
I think it kind of was it one of the earlier ones maybe.
It's 1997.
Okay,
So I don't. So like kind of
might
middle
have
of the road.
Kind of slipped through the cracks a little bit because I know that. Along Came a Spider, The Bone Collector, like,
Along Came a
those
Spider
types.
was a little bit later. That's actually the second one in this. So today, I haven't said it. Today we're talking
Suspense.
we're talking about Kiss the Girls from 1997. Anybody who has ever been to a bookstore in their entire fucking life and has looked through the mystery section or whatever else has seen a James Patterson novel, even if you've never read one, you definitely know what it is.
Okay, I thought you were going to say anybody who's been to a bookstore knows what this one is. I'm like, honestly, never.
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, I'm saying in general. So
James Patterson for sure.
yeah, so we may as well jump right into it.
The board shows 8 women missing. How closely connected are they?
They all share the same profile. All young, late teens, early 20s. Pretty.
Yeah, they're all extraordinary in some way.
Only 2 bodies have been found. The killer left a note first at the second murder scene.
Signed to Casanova.
Casanova, a great lover. Kiss me.
Now, the only one who can help him is the woman who got away.
I'd like to say something to Casanova.
So this film was the first adaptation of one of the Alex Cross novels. So even if you don't really know, like if you've never really picked up a James Patterson book, you don't necessarily know like what that is. Alex Cross is probably his longest running character. I think he's been writing the series since the 90s. This film is based on the novel of the same name, which was originally published in 1995. The film's from 1997, and he started, so technically, I think Along Came a Spider is the first book in the series, and that was published in like 93. And then this was the follow-up to that. This was the second book. Now, I did a little quick check while we were like watching the movie and talking about stuff. There are now over 30 Alex Cross books.
Wow.
Since 1993.
This is like Alex Cross is like our modern day Poirot or Miss Marple.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like basically, you give him a modern spin and you make him a forensic psychologist instead of just a detective.
Yeah, and like we like that kind of thing, don't we? I mean,
That's what thrillers are all about.
For
is
sure.
people who are
the psychology behind
psychoanalyzing generally speaking, the murderers in these types of stories.
Yep.
So Kiss the Girls currently has a score of 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb and 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. All right, calm down. It's pretty good.
I mean, I did find it a bit long. Like
it did drag a little bit. It did drag a little bit. I agree with you. On rewatch now, I'm like, it does drag a little bit. But like when there's stuff going on, there's stuff going on.
Yeah, like it was fine. Like would I watch it again? Probably not. Good enough to watch it once. Interesting storyline enough. It's interesting enough storyline.
Yeah, we got you. We're okay.
We got you. But yeah, it just had it had some lulls throughout.
Yeah.
I was glad that there was a bit of a twist at the end because For a bit there, I thought that they'd revealed like the
who he
twist.
was, like
Yeah.
right, like how, like
halfway
2/3 of the way into the
and I
movie,
was
and you're like,
oh,
what?
okay, well, I don't care anymore. Then.
No.
Yeah.
Then, if that had been the case, that would have been really boring.
Well, that was kind of what I thought was happening.
Yeah.
And then when they said, there's, a twist, I was like, oh.
They were like,
okay,
oh no, it's not
I'm
him.
interested
There's two
again
people.
now,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
it exactly. So, okay, but I will say though that the audience score is 62%, which makes
Yeah,
more
that's
sense
more
to me.
accurate. Yeah, I would give this a 62%.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me. So, so like I said, the Alex Cross series has now in total over 30 books have been published and are continuing to be published to this
Wow.
day, which is incredible. I think James Patterson's in his 80s now, so.
Dude's still going.
Yeah, he really is. Starring Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd. And let me just tell you, if you grew up around the time that Shireen and I did, so like mostly through the 90s and early 2000s was like our childhood / adolescence, basically. If you consider that at that time, if you're like somebody who watched a bunch of those movies and you consider that like Meg Ryan was like the queen of rom-coms at that time, Ashley Judd was the queen of suspense thriller films at that time. She got at least 5 or 6 that she was doing within the same like 10-year span. So for me, she was like the dramatic one and Meg Ryan was the funny one. You know what I mean?
True, Meg Ryan did have that trademark.
Oh, that's like
didn't
her thing. She was like the sweetheart of rom-coms in like basically like the mid 90s to early 2000s.
It's funny how they just all promptly disappear, isn't it?
They sure did.
Yeah.
I know. And then you find out 20 years later that their kids are acting now and you've seen them and stuff.
I know, but like, when I think of Meg Ryan, it's like, okay, I saw her in You've Got Mail. And then I'm like, what? Like, she never came back and like played like the fun aunt or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Not
she never
really,
played like
no.
an extra character.
No, I know. Not
Ever
like
again.
not that much anyway, or at least not in like a ton of stuff, which is surprising. I know you'd think that they would kind of like
Yeah.
graduate
Evolve their careers
to
but
other things. We all know
I guess they don't need to.
No, I guess not. Also, we all know that like Ashley Judd has done some stuff since then, but we also all know that she's been a really outspoken advocate for the Me Too movement.
She has. Yep.
And everything. And, she's been very open about her own experiences with sexual assault and the like. So I know that she's quite involved with a lot of activism to do with those things as well.
Yes.
Which is great.
It is.
Cool.
Absolutely. Hats off to Ashley.
It's really great that she's been willing to go to the extent that she has. So good for her. Unfortunately, I did read a quick tidbit that indicated that around the time that she was harassed by Harvey Weinstein was when she was making this film.
Ooh, talk about the worst kind of method
Yeah,
acting.
which I was like, well, that's terrible. Great.
Yeah. That's not good.
No. Okay, so for anybody who's like not familiar, basically, the Alex Cross stories follow Dr. Alex Cross. He's, I don't know, it's vague. A forensic psychologist, but also kind of a detective. It's weird.
Yeah. But they did that a lot in these movies.
Oh, so much. Yeah, because they have to have them part of the investigation as well, because it would be
Yeah.
boring if they were just sitting waiting to
Right.
speak to people, right?
Like, again, like it's that, you can't be doing that whole red tape maneuver.
It's like CSI, where they have them
Yeah.
investigate, even though there's no fucking way that these
Right.
crime scene investigators would have been arresting people as well. That's
Exactly.
not a thing. These are 2 separate jobs. It doesn't make any
I
sense.
know, it's true. Like Criminal Minds. That was like a whole show. based on
Exactly. It's insane. Yeah. So Alex Cross is a forensic psychologist. He works out of DC. And basically the premise of this story is that he receives a call from family who indicate that his niece, who's out in North Carolina, has been abducted. Like, she's been missing for 4 days. And it turns out that there is as of right now, a serial abductor in the area who's taken several different women. I think there was 7 or 8 by the time he gets there, basically, including his niece Naomi. So he, on like it's one of those things where it's like a little bit rogue, because he goes out there even though technically he's not officially on the case, but he goes out there and to investigate for personal reasons. And that story, that part of it is, until they come together about halfway through the film, is juxtaposed with Ashley Judd's character. She's a doctor. Her name's Kate. And she is one of the women who is also abducted by this person who has proclaimed that his moniker or whatever is Casanova. And he abducts women who are like very accomplished professional women who, have like all sorts of different skills. Kate's a doctor. Naomi is a really brilliant violin player. All kind of, anyway, they all have like different things. There's nothing like unimpressive about any of the women that he's taken.
Yeah.
And we do kind of see as well that he is graduating to murder because one of the girls that he has taken, I don't know what she did, but I guess she did something to piss him off. So we do see that he does kill her and leave her in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like his whole thing is that he's kidnapping them because he wants to collect them.
And he wants them to be in love with him.
Yes.
And he's in love with them in like this really fucking weird way.
Yeah, like Megan pointed out that this is what the movie 365 Days would be if it were actually real and not being spun as some sort of sexy, like,
that's right, everybody.
Stockholm syndrome.
That's right, everybody who
situation.
wears rose-colored glasses about this. I'm bringing it back to the romance stuff and telling you that technically in 365 days, this is probably what she would have gone through.
Oh, yes.
Is something much more like this and much
super
less like
creepy.
sexy mob boss guy.
Oh God, it was so terrifying.
So yes, we follow Alex from the point of, finishing another case. Of course, that's the whole thing, right? Is that they do this thing at the beginning where you're meant to get the idea that he's so brilliant that he can talk anybody down.
Yeah.
Because there's a woman who's like murdered her very abusive spouse or partner, whatever.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
And he talks her down so she doesn't kill herself, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so we have his beginning of the investigation. He gets to North Carolina, starts getting to know what's going on, starts, of course, as usual, especially the 90s ones were very tropey that way. Like, he gets there and he's the first one to start being like, all these women are very accomplished. So he's looking to collect them for this, that, and the other. Like he won't be looking to kill them immediately kind of thing. He wants them to love it. Like, he just has these like specific things. And like, obviously the movie doesn't bother to show you how he's come up with that idea.
No, like that would take up too much time.
It would.
But
Then it would have to be a show.
Was it you who said, like, this is what they did in the 90s? Like, the detectives are also, like, accomplished, they know
100%.
everything. Like, he immediately, like, just knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And a couple of times throughout the movie, he correctly guesses, like, what's happened with no, like, further context other than, like, his gut instinct.
Yes, like, okay, there's a whole thing that occurs where he figures out that the women are being kept semi-sedated. Basically, they're conscious, but they're being kept kind of like loopy, basically, by using this particular drug that apparently can be used by plastic surgeons to help sedate people during, I guess, more minor procedures, probably.
It's so specific.
And he takes like a few different clues and then guesses that this must be the drug that's being used and then is able to track a person with that. But what happens after he's able to speak to Kate after she escapes, she has a whole badass scene where she like gets out, runs away from the killer, from Casanova, who she thinks is Casanova, we don't know yet, runs up onto, like, out of his weird little cave that he's keeping everybody in, runs up onto a hill, and then proceeds to jump off a waterfall to get away with him, which I don't blame her. It's either that or you go back.
Right.
And you'll probably die pretty soon anyway, because he knows that you can't be trusted anymore, right? So, anyway. Once he's able to speak to her and start getting he has a couple of like sessions with her where he gets her to speak to him about her recollections about things, then is kind of able to determine who this person could be, figures out the drug situation, and then based on that, looks up the information as to who in the past couple of years has purchased a really large amount of this drug and tracks this plastic surgeon all the way on the other side of the country.
I mean, if he's a plastic surgeon, he'd be using it anyway.
Yeah, but apparently he bought a really inordinate amount of it, is what they kind of indicate anyway. So tracks him to the other side of the country where there is another current operational murderer, basically like a person who's like doing something who they call the gentleman caller. And his MO, I think, is that he's basically kidnapping, killing people, and cutting off their feet, which he keeps, which is weird.
Oh, man.
Talk about a foot
like
fetish.
Superstore.
What?
In Superstore, they keep finding human feet all
Ew.
like, in the store. You don't remember this?
I've not seen it.
Oh, you haven't watched Superstore?
No.
It's like this really funny show, and they keep finding feet in the store. Maybe they're trying to make some sort of connection.
Some sort of connection to that. Very weird. Anyway.
Sorry, Tana.
Anyway, yeah, interesting. Anyway, he tracks this guy and they track him down. But like there are a lot of instances in this where you're like, dude, what are you doing? Where he just he tracks this person and is like, I'm not going to bring any backup
God.
except 2 other dudes with
like,
me.
I was
One of them
watching this
gets
and I'm
shot.
like, so what? So he brings 3 people? When she says, like, oh, I know it's him. Like, that's definitely
it's
the guy.
definitely him. When she sees him, she sees the way he's acting, his mannerisms, and he's been wearing a mask the whole time. So it's not like she can identify him by face. But she's like, no, it's definitely him. It's definitely him. And he just is like, all right, I'm going to bring these 2 other dudes with me, and we're going to go track this guy to his creepy little cabin in the woods.
Where he's kidnapped another woman.
Yes, 100%.
Like, she sees him with another woman that he's, like, in the midst of kidnapping.
Yes.
And she's like, that's him. And they're in a club. And then cut scene to his cabin in the woods.
Where they've let him take this person.
I know. I'm just like, what is this? Like, intercept him.
100%.
Like,
I know.
There's a lot of things in this movie where we were kind of
it's
like...
It's very 90s. It's so very like, no, we're not taking anyone's welfare into consideration. Why the fuck would we do that?
I know, like, a lot of, like, the logic went out the window on this one, and I almost wonder if, if we were to make this kind of adaptation now, we would make it as a TV series.
Okay, that's so funny that you bring that up, because I did come across a quick headline that indicated that apparently Prime is looking to make an Alex Cross TV series.
there you
I
go.
think they've picked it up.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to do that. And I was
That
like,
would make more sense.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, granted, especially because you have so much material to work with.
30 books?
Oh my God. And I think there are some novellas, and there's also, I think, a spinoff with, I think, like, one of his sons or something has his own thing where he's had, like, a few books, like, from his perspective, because I guess he's maybe, like, a law enforcement officer as well.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, as long as they don't do, like, one mystery per episode, because then you're just going to end up with this shit again.
Oh, no. That would be wild. You'd have to do a full season.
Yeah.
So
that's
that way
what
you
I'm
could
saying.
develop it properly. Because, like, really, like, when we were watching it, like, Casanova's scary. Like, he's terrifying.
He's terrifying. They did a great job with that at the beginning of the movie, but it was just like so many, and I don't know if it's because we're more critical now.
I think we
watch
can.
these
I think
things.
because there have been so many others like it made that have maybe developed things differently and done things a little bit better and in more detail. We didn't care. I don't know how to explain this to people who are like younger than us, but we didn't care about that at the time. Like, we didn't care about how developed it was and how detailed it was. That started a little bit later.
It's true. We started questioning things a little bit more than just accepting them at face value. And
Exactly.
I found like this whole movie, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Well,
And
that
like,
doesn't make
normally
sense.
I'm not that critical.
But
it's
easy to be,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, for sure. I normally kind of just say like, okay, it's a movie, like whatever.
Of course, yeah.
But there was so many parts of this movie where I'm like, well, this makes no sense.
No, not at all. So anyway, they intercept him, and where is it? They intercept him like in California, because he's also, like I said, this guy's operating in California. And through what they find in California, Alex determines that there are 2 of them operating, actually, and they're just working in tandem with one another.
Yeah.
Probably to help each other, but also to like throw people off,
Yeah.
basically. So that's exactly what's happening. There are 2 people. So who we've seen up until now is Tony Golden's character, who's this plastic surgeon, and who is technically, he's the gentleman caller. He's not Casanova. However, he has been doing some of Casanova's dirty work for him. So you've kind of seen him in some of the scenes as well. So there's this confusion of like, well, which one have I seen at which time a little bit, which is technically true. And after he escapes from them, because that's what happens when there's only 3 cops and this guy has a car and gets away. Fucking stupid. Anyway, he, takes off, flees back to North Carolina. They track him there.
To his lair of his
and
collection.
are able to find the creepy lair where all these women are being kept. And there's a good, 8 of them.
Oh, yeah.
down
And
there.
they're, sitting down. It's like he's, revamped Dracula's lair. I really found this
And these
set
are
quite
the
cool.
unwilling brides that have been brought
Pretty
there,
much,
basically.
yeah.
Yes, no, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, because it's very, cavern underground.
Oh, yeah, with the leaky candles.
It looks like an old mine.
Exactly. But it's it's got a little bit of fanciness.
It has a gothic sensibility to it in a way. I know what you mean. Yeah. And that's the whole thing, right? Is because the whole Casanova thing is that he considers himself like a Don Juan of sorts, where all these women are definitely in love with me, even though I've kidnapped them against their will. See, 365 days.
But this is what I'm saying. But in that movie, she actually falls in love with him, and you're like, girl, no.
Yeah, because we took
It doesn't matter how sexy he is. It does not matter.
We took the idea of this, and we were like, yes, but make it romance. And apparently all you have to do to make it romantic is to have like the person who does this be attractive.
But
that's not
would
true.
Go completely out the window.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't even notice
come
what
on.
this person looks like. They kidnapped you. They've like injured you.
Come
they're
on.
drugging you. Like
Think about for 1 minute if tomorrow you were like actually, I'm talking about against your will, if you were kidnapped by. Think of
Ryan Gosling.
Sure. Think of the hottest like celebrity that you have like a big crush on or something,
Yeah.
like whatever, like the person that you have like a really big crush on. If you were kidnapped by that person tomorrow, it would still be fucking terrifying.
Of course, if Ryan Gosling kidnapped me,
Yes.
held me against my will, and was like, "You're gonna fall in love with me," and like injured me, I'd be like, "Holy shit, I'm so scared!"
Oh my God, that would be
like,
awful.
I do not like you anymore.
But we do because we love Ryan Gosling. Who's
Can't wait
excited for the Barbie movie?
Oh my God.
It's gonna be great.
My husband said to me, he's like, "Oh, do you have any interest in going to see the Barbie movie?" I'm like, "Oh, is it out?"
No, I think it's out in July.
Yeah, I
but
know.
we'll be looking forward to that
And he's
next
like,
month.
"Well, I
Actually,
guess
when you
I'm
guys
gonna
are
go."
listening to this.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, but exactly. Okay, so see, that's a really good example. You take somebody who like everybody thinks is like a talented person and a nice person. Yeah. And you're like, if that person, even if you're like, you know, you're there and you're like, yes, take me right now. But if that person
don't actually mean
physically kidnapped you no. If that person physically kidnapped you tomorrow, that would be terrifying.
Right.
That would be awful. If Henry Cavill kidnapped me tomorrow, I would still be scared.
I know, yeah. No shade, no tea to Ryan Gosling.
Not at all.
Not that we're saying that they are kidnappers, but
No,
we're just
God, no.
using- Please do not take this out of
Don't
context.
take this out of
Oh
context.
God, I can
But-
see the headline now.
Oh God. I don't think we're important enough to warrant a headline. Anyway, but these are like, you know, good examples. Like think of a person who you're really like who you find is really attractive. It
doesn't matter.
The guy in 365 Days is good looking, but that I don't care.
He was like good looking in a scary way.
He was good
Like,
looking. Also, there's something about those movies. He was good looking like in the first movie, and then he got uglier the more they went on.
He just looked more and more distressed.
Yeah.
You're like, this man needs sleep to continue to look sexy. Because if he's tired, he just looks scary.
He looks scary. He looks like he's
bursting
tweaking.
out of his suit.
tweaking or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that too. Well, I think it's because of his evil twin. Okay, we're digressing. We're completely digressing here. This is what happened halfway through this movie when I said this is a little long. Like my mind started to
Yeah,
just
you
wander
started
in all
thinking of these
directions.
things and being like, nothing about this would be attractive. Why would this crazy person think that anyone would be in love with him? And then you go off into those various tangents. Anyway, we basically from that point on, like that's it. Like so, the gentleman caller guy shows up back in North Carolina and he's just like entertaining all these women because I guess he wants them for himself, but he has this weird thing where he's speaking to Casanova, but Casanova's off camera, like you can't see him, he's hiding, and they have this back and forth sort of like a power struggle to a certain extent because he's like, come on, just
I thought
kill.
it was a different dude.
No.
Oh, there weren't 3 dudes involved here?
No.
The dude with the dark hair was a different guy.
What are you talking about?
The guy with that they burst into his house and they were like, we don't have a warrant and we're trespassing.
Oh yeah, that was the gentleman. Oh no, that guy. Okay,
Yeah.
no, I know what you're talking about. No, okay, he's a side character. He's not really that important.
Oh,
He's a red
okay.
herring.
Oh,
He's a red herring.
Okay.
He's a psychologist or something who I think like works and maybe teaches at the university where like Naomi was going and stuff like
Okay,
that,
not
and a couple of the other
important. Yeah,
girls.
okay,
So
red herring.
and
There
he
was a
has
red
this weird.
herring.
He slept with a bunch of them. I think including Naomi at some point.
Right, yeah,
and that's why they think it's him because he's taken their photos in compromising positions.
Okay.
And they think that he has something to do with it, but he's just disgusting.
Oh, okay.
He should just lose his
So
job.
there's just a lot of disgusting men in this movie.
Yeah, they're all gross,
Oh, okay.
basically.
All right, continue.
Except Alex Cross.
Except Alex Cross.
He's fine.
who's Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Who can never be disgusting.
No, he'd probably be okay
Yeah.
in pretty much everything. We love Morgan Freeman.
he
I
played
read briefly that he dropped out because of a scheduling conflict, but technically Denzel Washington was supposed to play Alex Cross to start off with.
Oh, interesting.
In the film. And again, I don't know if it was scheduling or whatever it was, but on a hiatus from X-Files, Gillian Anderson was supposed to play Kate.
That would have been great.
That would've been
It would've well, I mean, Gillian Anderson as Kate. I mean, you know what? We don't hate Ashley Judd. Like,
I like Ashley
there was
Judd.
like she did a really good, like, she reminded me a lot of the woman who's in Hannibal.
Oh,
Claire,
Jodie
Clarice.
Foster.
Yeah, Jodie
Foster, yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Well, but see, okay, so I think it was funny because when we were watching the movie, your husband was watching it with us, and he said at one point, he was like, this has like a Silence of the Lambs feel to it, and I think that's partially the time period. Silence of the Lambs was like 1991 or 92 or something, and I feel like for a good period of time, every detective-ish suspense type of story after that had very much the same vibe to it because like that was a great film, and so a lot of them were probably trying to replicate that a little bit with what they were doing with their own movies as well, which makes sense. You know,
it makes sense,
right?
I mean, they do that, right? Like they have a success with one thing, and they're like, let's just do this.
But they're doing it now
with all the crappy romance movies.
With all the crappy romance movies, with all of the Star Wars spin-offs, with all the Marvel shit that, like, you know, most people just aren't interested in anymore because it's oversaturated.
Yep, let's do it till people hate it.
It's working.
It is working.
It's fucking working anyway. So anyway, when this happens, we're watching this power struggle, and then Casanova kills the gentleman caller.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm so sorry. He shoots at him. There is a chase that ensues. Alex, at the same time, has discovered where the lair is, the creepy little Dracula lair, finds him, chases him into the woods and shoots the gentleman caller. But again, that's not Casanova, and we know this.
And Casanova flees.
Yes, exactly. No, we, quote unquote, have no idea where he's gone. And technically, I mean, granted, I watched it when I was a kid, but, you know, until the movie wanted me to, the first time I watched it, I didn't really know who it actually was. Like, if you think about, you know what I mean?
Job with that one. I was too distracted with his terrible accent.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, so who the killer is basically after this, we, you know, get to see everybody in recovery. The women are okay, thank God. And then prior to leaving, you know, Kate says to Alex, like, hey, come over for dinner. Like, you know, like, come over for, like, obviously she wants to thank him. He helped save her, you know. Like, she saved herself, I will say. Physically, she saved herself, but he helped track down and find all of these women, and she had survivor's guilt from having left them behind while she was getting away.
Yeah.
Which was also well done. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so she's prepping dinner, and then who should show up but one of the younger detectives who's been there basically the entire film, pretty much, who's one of the North Carolina detectives. It's Nick Ruskin, if I'm not mistaken, is the name. I don't even know if that's his real name, but that's the name that's that he uses anyway. Who, like, we'd been, like, when you're watching it, you're chuckling about it most of the time because he has, like, an almost comedic, very Southern accent that sounds like Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, it sounds like Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, or like Matthew McConaughey, but, like, if you turned it up and made it not really sound like him anymore, if you warped it a little bit.
There are women in these parts.
Like,
you know,
I don't know what that was.
It was great.
Anyway, so he shows up, and that's when, like, you can tell that the film wants you to be like, oh yeah, look, it's this motherfucker, because you kind of assume we haven't seen Casanova's face this entire film, and so you're like, well, it must be a character who we've seen, because if not, like, they'd probably just show him to you. They wouldn't really care.
It to you, right? I'm like, are we assuming that he's one of the, like, police or detectives?
Exactly, or someone like involved who we've seen, like, in the investigation. Exactly, that's it. So he shows up, you know, all shucksy doodles, like, I'm just making sure you're okay. You know, and she invites him in because she's, like, a nice person. And it devolves very quickly. I will say I'm surprised, like, because he's so careful all the time, the character, and I am pretty surprised that he, like, almost immediately gives himself away to her on purpose.
Yeah, he does it on purpose.
Yeah, like,
which I appreciated, because somebody like that would not give himself away accidentally.
No, he definitely does it on purpose, because he purposely says strange things to her about how you can find out about someone, like how you can go through their trash and all the things that you can learn about them based on that. Yeah. And then he slowly, as he's talking about this, drops the accent to a more standardized North American accent, basically. And obviously reveals himself at the same time. She's realized it. Has some, I guess, more of a PTSD reaction, because she does cut him once, but she does not stab him with the very large knife that she's holding.
So annoying.
I know. But we need there to be like an actual fight scene. Like a fight scene. Like a proper struggle needs to ensue. There is obviously one. Many things get broken in the kitchen. Many people get thrown into cabinets. And then she, you know, tries to handcuff him to the stove.
Instead of, again, stabbing him.
I know. Just murder at that point. It's self-defense. It's fine. He, you know, pulls the stove fully, like, you know, and undoes it winds up undoing, like, the gas. the connection to the gas tank, whatever you want to call it. So, of course, there's gas leaking in. So what he's going to do, obviously, he's got a lighter in his pocket, so he's just going to kill them both, I guess. Because, again, I can only assume what we're supposed to deduce from this is he's so crazy. She's the one who got away, and he's like, oh, now I'm going to kill us both because I love you so much. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's
like
nuts.
she's like the ultimate rival.
Sure.
Part of his collection.
Sure. But obviously, Alex has figured this out because of similar signatures and handwriting that's on, like, something that Casanova sent to him and some of the police reports. So, like, not a smart man. Anyway, it's weird. It's weird how they're very intelligent, but also they do really stupid shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in this case, like, that one was like a because he puts a little symbol near his signature.
Yeah,
that
he like
uses
puts a
when he signs Casanova as well. So like, that was like one of those things that it was almost like he planted it there to see if there was anybody clever enough.
Yeah,
to
I guess
find
if he
him.
was wondering, like, oh, is anybody going to pick up on this?
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm pretty sure someone would have by now. I don't know. Anyway, you know, you have your whole thing. Fight is happening. Alex has rushed over to Kate's house and stuff bursts in. There's, again, much posturing and talking back and forth about, like, you don't have to do this. I am going to do this, that kind of thing, which ends with, because, of course, you know, they do have a thing. I love we're sitting there. My fiance's like, he's there and he's like, yeah, but he can't shoot him because of all the fucking gas, because the muzzle blowback or whatever there would cause a spark, which would then in turn ignite the gas and kill everybody. Right. And they do say that, and you're like, okay, good, fine. So what he does is he just like uses like a carton of milk as like a buffer essentially, so that it stops the muzzle flash pretty much, or it like prevents it from, you know, igniting anything. So yeah, that happens. And then as is usual in 90s films, right after the bad guy is killed, we just have people comforting each other, and then we cut to credits. We never have a denouement after. No. We never have anything extra that we see about the characters or anything. We're just like, all right, this is what you were here for, so here's the movie.
Yeah, it was just one of those, like, that it just didn't feel like it was like a good ending. Like, it just didn't
it's very
feel
abrupt,
like it was,
right?
Yeah, like,
so.
I didn't feel like there was a neat little bow at the end of it. But then at the same time, I was a little bit like, yeah, I don't really care.
No, I mean, yeah, you're kind of, I mean, what else would you do with it, right?
Right. Like, and also the movie had been fucking long at this point.
I think that's the problem, is that it was very long in certain parts when you could have had more of an ending to it and cut some of the other stuff out a little bit without making that be a big deal. Right. I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those, it falls into that category of like everything, like everything for a good 10 years that came after Silence of the Lambs that was kind of functioning in the same style of film. All of those like thriller types of things that were like, yeah, sure, let's do it the same way and hopefully it works. Yeah, exactly. But we don't have as strong of a script. Oops.
Yeah, well, that was it, right? Like, I felt like, you know, they started off well and the killer was scary and, you know, I was curious to find out about it, but it just kind of like, it was like, is the focus on the killer or on the detective, you know? And
it does
was like,
peter off a little bit at one point. Yeah, I know. It's difficult to, I don't know. Because like if you think of something, I guess that came like around the same time, probably like Seven. Yeah. In Seven, the focus is very much on the detectives.
But it was also on the killer. So like.
Well, it is, but it's only it's on what he's doing. Like nobody really gives a fuck about John Doe by the time it rolls around to him, you know?
That's true. No, you're right. Most of these movies, they focus on one or the other. And this one, I felt like they were trying to focus on both. And it just...
They're warring for screen time a little bit, and that's probably why it winds up being so long. So, yeah, it's a little... And it has some weaknesses. Overall, like, yeah, is it a decent time? Of course it is, but it's not necessarily one that you're like, this is the best movie ever. No.
Yeah, you're not, like, on the edge of your seat. Like,
no.
I can't wait to hear what happens next.
No, that's it. But did you guys grow up in the 90s? Have you watched this movie? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't realize that they've seen it, but they've seen it. You know, like one of those that was like on cable.
Yep.
And you've watched it?
Cable.
Yeah. Or have you read the Alex Cross books? I've never read one of them, so I'm always curious if they're good.
True.
So many. It's a lot to commit to, 30 books. Anyway.
I might do one.
Yeah. I think they're one of those two that you don't have to read all of them.
Oh, I don't
think
so.
Or even like read them from the beginning. I think you can just be like, yeah, okay, cool, fine.
Yeah, like just keep it going.
Keep it going. It's fine. I can just pick up a random one and read it.
Totally.
Anyway, you can let us know about that over on Instagram at fullybookedca. And you can also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/book was way better. And if you're still here with us, which I hope you are, please feel free to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening, because it really helps us get the show out in front of more people. But until next week, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.